Get a Monday morning and we're back on capturing videos. Back on making another streak. Not sure how long it will be this time, but the last streak was almost a month. So yeah, and as you can see, today is very foggy. I thought it's going to be, actually, I'm not saying this is not beautiful, but I thought it's going to be a very sunny morning because it got much colder in the night, and there was a very bright full moon, or slightly after full moon, but it was huge, you know, huge moon coming up, rising up from behind those treetops, and it was incredibly bright outside, you know, given it was night. It was really the visibility was amazing. So I thought, I think that might mean a very beautiful morning and sunrise and everything, you know. But, see that guy? Can you hear it? That is a raven. Good boy. That is a raven, and I'm going to talk about it in a bit. That was a raven, common raven, and we are hearing also some drummings. I'm pretty sure you noticed. There's one over there. Yes, there's one over there, and there was one over there. Still can hear the raven. Yeah, but the actually what happened is that there was a lot of, I don't know how this gets created, but there was a lot of, I suppose, evaporated or like maybe differences between the temperature of the ground and the temperature of the air, and this creates the vapor. That's probably the case. That creates the mist, and here we are. We have this mystical morning, quite chilly. I had to take an extra layer and also gloves, as you can see. It's slightly below zero. But surprisingly enough, I checked the weather forecast and it showed it's supposed to be 15 or 16 next week. And it's like, that's going to be towards the half of March. And I was like, so is winter really not coming back? It's so hard to believe, really, because everything points to, okay, here, the spring's here because there are flowers popping up, and I still don't buy it, you know. I mean, it's way too early, and it was never like that before, you know. Always, this winter always came from around the corner when you thought, spring is here, and it hit hard. And there were frosts and even snow. I remember snow from April, you know. So I guess it can still come, but everything points to the fact that it will not, you know. And the forecast really shows 16 next week. That is crazy. So we'll see. But I still kind of believe that it will come, you know. I cannot believe this would be it, you know. By the way, that willow there is absolutely incredible. Love it. You know how the gnarled, the gnarled branches and the whole thing. It's from like with this mist. It's almost like a scene from a Sleepy Hollow. I feel like the headless rider would just come from around that corner, you know, right now. Charging at us. It's beautiful. Yeah, I love these mornings, to be honest. You know, it's like something else, and it's something you don't get every day too, you know. Once it gets into spring, and then you get a lot of beautiful sunrises and a lot of beautiful mornings, but this is very sort of unique and specific for certain times throughout the winter. So this is actually very cool. It's very quiet and calm too, which is great. So we saw a raven there, and ravens are incredible birds. They're pretty widespread throughout the northern hemisphere. So I'm pretty sure you know ravens if you're from Canada or North America. You get ravens too, and from all different parts of the world. And of course there are many different species of similar corvid birds, but this is a common raven, Corvus corax. It's probably, I believe, one of the most widespread ones, and they are incredible. No, hodnej Driku. Hodnej, good boy. They're incredible species, incredible birds, with absolutely amazing intelligence. They're truly one of the most intelligent, I would even say, animals on the entire planet, because they have incredible brains that only recently, and recently being the last 10, 15 years, only recently, or 10 to 20 years recently, we're discovering how actually amazing their brains are and how incredibly intelligent birds in general, but especially these corvid species, really are, and they can really do incredible sorts of cognitive tasks that you wouldn't believe that they would be capable of them, but they can solve various problems, very complicated, intricate, logical problems. They can solve them. They can, they can communicate into great depths. Corvids are actually one of the species that can learn language, like communicate with us, like learn human language, learn words, and actually have, like, some parrot species have, like, show that they actually connect the words with the meaning, but they in the wild, like we're talking about that, of course, that is in the captivity, but in the wild they show a wide range of incredible, intellectual skill sets that are absolutely unheard of. One of the things that they're capable of, which only few species out there are, is something that is called displacement, and that is actually a thing that they can communicate with other birds and other members of their species. They can communicate about, like, abstract concepts and things that are far in space and time, so like us, like when we plan our holiday or something, or we talk about something that happened or will happen somewhere else, it's like a completely different way of thinking that you would think, oh, well, like, only we're capable of that, right? Well, ravens are one of the animals, one of the species that are capable of that, actually. And the other being, if I remember correctly, the other being ants, bees, and there was one more. Ants, bees, and I believe there is one more there. But yeah, I can't really recall right now. I'm going to post in the subtitles, of course. But ants and bees, definitely one of those. They're capable of this, which is an incredible, considering that they are such small animals, such small organisms. But then again, you have the whole thing called the hive mind, and they work like the thousands and millions of the small, tiny bodies work as one mind and one body. which is a phenomenon that is just something else. It's just like out of this world. But ravens, actually, they are capable of that on an individual level, which is an incredible thing, you know, when you think about it, because we're doing that and they're doing it too. We think like, oh, there's a bird, you know, flying around. Like, what's he up to? Is gonna, you know, do his bird thing. But like, there is so much going in their brains, you know. They're capable of play, which was like proven multiple times. They're capable of, you know, doing all sorts of like things that you would say, oh, these are human traits, right? Or traits of like highly intelligent animals, you know, such as, I don't know, like sort of like tricks and like, you know, mischievous things that they're doing to each other, you know. And ravens and corvid species are all of them are doing that, you know. And I believe they're part of the brain that is called hyperpallium. I'm saying it right. Is really large, you know, compared to the size of their brain. That's why people back in the past thought, oh, you know, a bird brain, you know, which was like an insult, you know, your bird brain, because people thought, no, Driku, ano, hezky si přiběhl, you're a good boy that you came, but I didn't call you, you know. So calls, like, treats are only when I call you, you know. So you know you have to, you're gonna come when I call you. That's the whole point of treats. Of course, not the only point of treats. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, that's not the only point, but you know, that's what I try to, you know, how I try to train Drake, you know, that he really listens to me when I need him to listen to me. Otherwise, I don't really call him that much. You can see on the walks, he's given a lot of freedom, and we don't really interact, right? You notice, like, when we are on these walks, I rarely call him, only when he goes to that feeder there, which is in the beginning. And then sometimes when I'm like suspecting a foul play, you know, when he disappears in the woods, and I'm kind of like, is he after some sort of carcass or something? Then I call him, but you know, that happens quite rarely. And so you know, I train him to come when I call him through these treats, you know, and it really works really well. And I train him on that whistle, and also on some other calls, you know. Wow, look at that. That is absolutely amazing. I didn't expect we were gonna see sun at all, but here it is, and it's spectacular through the mist. Incredible. But yeah, I mean, of course, the point of treats is not just that. You know, sometimes I give it to him when he's like very patient and, you know, waiting for me, or waiting for us, when we're in the restaurant and he's there and he's really, really, you know, really sweet and just laying low. And then, you know, I give him a lot of treats, because just to show him that I appreciate how calm he is, and, you know, how well behaved he is, and all that. So of course it's not just like sort of a means to for him to listen to me or something, but it was a great help, like, without a doubt, those treats, and rewarding him for, look at that. Wow, that is something. You got a missile thrush singing from over there. Absolutely beautiful. And there is a blue sky, which I thought will be hidden, to be honest, because I checked the forecast and it was supposed to be overcast, you know. But I guess it's gonna be a beautiful day today, after all. Anyways, you know, that was just about treats and Drake. I guess you know that I'm giving him treats when he comes on these walks. So yeah, just wanted to give you a bit of background. Anyways, oh yeah, and then sometimes, I wanted to say, sometimes he just comes on his own and he tries it, you know. He's like, isn't it time for a treat? And I'm like, no, Drake, it isn't, because there's like nothing happened, you know, and I don't want the treats to become a sort of a common thing that he does not connect with something, you know, special, so to speak. So I'm not handing out treats just like, you know, on a whim, but he tries it nevertheless. Sometimes he comes and he looks at me with those like with this question in his eyes, like, is it time for treat? And I'm like, no, Drake, it's not. Unfortunately, not yet. So it's cute. It's very cute. But anyway, that the what I was talking about, the brains and the part called hyperpallium in the bird brains, and the conception back in, like, I don't know, few decades and centuries back, was that birds are not very intelligent, you know, because the conception there was, the concept there was that they have really small tiny brains, and therefore those brains cannot be able to have a lot of quote unquote computing power, right? Because they're tiny and there's not much to do there, you know. But in fact, what was discovered through various, you know, scientific studies was that those brains actually work completely differently than we thought. They have different structures and different sort of mechanisms, and, you know, it's just that their brain, regardless of how small it is, regardless of its size, is incredibly powerful, and they're capable of incredible things. And that is very true for corvid species and for birds like the raven that we saw, for birds like raven that we saw. And they're truly extremely intelligent animals, and sort of, I would call them like sort of like grape apes with wings. I don't know, like there's really so much that is going on inside their heads, and they're also, you know, they're thinking ahead into the future. They're storing food, they're remembering the locations, and they're, you know, thinking about hard times, you know, like, now I have abundance, but what if there will be hard times in the future? And they actually calculate with that, you know, which is something you would say, okay, that's like human sort of capability, right? It's like, because animals, when they have abundance, they just, you know, go at it. If you give your dog a food, you know, then he's gonna eat it. If you give him another, he's gonna eat it. If you give him another, and it goes on until that dog is completely stuffed and unable to eat anymore, right? But those birds, they actually think about the future and about possible hard times, and they calculate with that, you know, with that equation, and they store the food, they hide it away, and they can really have this concept of the timeline, and of like that there's going to be something in the future because there was something in the past that happened, and all of that is intertwined and connected in their brains, and they can work with it practically outside in the world, which is amazing. And so there's this part called hyperpallium, which I'm hoping I'm saying it right, is very large compared to the size of their brains. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly now, but the point is that part is actually, and I'm not sure if it was the same size or even larger than in the great apes, you know. And I'm not sure if it's the same thing as in our brains and brains of other apes and other, you know, monkey species, but maybe it's something that is similar and acts in a similar way. I don't know, like neocortex or something. I'm not sure really, because I haven't dived into it that deep, but perhaps it's something similar that is actually larger given the size of their brain compared to the thing that we have, and so on and so forth. I really don't know, but the point is, the bottom line is, they're extremely intelligent, and that part of their brain is either the same size, you know, comparatively to their size, or even larger than in great apes. Therefore, their intelligence is truly unprecedented and truly very highly underestimated, you know, by us for centuries, you know. And yeah, and I was talking about solving the logical tasks. They can really, if you check out on YouTube, there are multiple videos where they do these like thought experiments with them, and they truly able to solve things that, you know, like small children can solve. They can do that, you know. They can really, you know, this kind of thing when you put a certain shape into a certain shape, you know, and star into a star and circle into a circle, things like that, you know, and they're solving it just like, you know, effortlessly, sort of. And yeah, of course, they're using, that's what I didn't mention, they're capable of using tools, and so there is so much to them that they're capable of, and they're fascinating species. They're forming pairs which are lifelong, actually, you know. They're monogamous, and they truly form lifelong relationships that last, you know, I'm not sure what their lifespan is, but I would believe it would be up to, you know, 10-15 years, you know, definitely, possibly, or possibly even more, you know. I mean, in the captivity, I believe that could be up to 30 years perhaps, but they live quite long, and they form lifelong relationships with their partner, and you can see them very often. I observe them here on a regular basis. I observe them in pairs, you know, and of course in spring and after the breeding season there are like groups, and I believe those are usually or often the adults with their offspring, you know. There's like, and they flock together, kind of, not as much as crows or rooks, but they do that, like they are in those like larger families. But most of the time of the year you see them either alone or you see them in a pair, and it's sometimes really beautiful to watch them fly together, because they're like, you watch them and you see that there is joy in their flight. Really, I saw them many times, that they're, hold on, I'm gonna call Drake because I have absolutely no idea where he is. And those are the moments that I'm glad he listens so well to those whistles, you know, because it really works well. And we worked a long time to achieve this with those treats and everything, but I cannot see him really. So yeah, who knows? I don't know. I mean, it's with the mist, right? I mean, the visibility is not particularly great, so he can be somewhere, but I just don't see him. And yeah, unsurprisingly, I don't have my glasses with me, my catchphrase. Oh, there he is. Cool. So what I was saying is that when you watch them fly, sometimes they're gonna do these acrobatic forms, so to speak, and good boy, and it's absolutely beautiful to watch, like really almost emotional, you know, because like you see how they fold their wings mid-flight, and they're doing these like turns and pirouettes, and they turn upside down and then dive a little bit, then go up. That you see that they're wholeheartedly enjoying that flight. They're having a time of their life, and they're not just doing it to get from point A to point B, but they're actually enjoying that moment, you know, enjoying their life and being grateful that they're flying. I'm not sure if they're like grateful, but they're definitely enjoying it, you know, and they're having fun, simply put, you know. And when you watch it, it's just so touching and beautiful, and you see that there's like so much more to these animals, you know. And I'm not talking just about ravens, you know, but in general you see there's so much more to them, you know, than you might think. And ravens show that really, like sometimes when you watch them you see it, you know, and it's incredible. And they're truly extremely intelligent. Magpie is the same. Magpie is absolutely an absolute genius amongst birds, you know, just like ravens. And they're actually one of the few magpies are one of the few animals that were able to pass the so-called mirror test, which is when you put up a mirror against them, they'll actually recognize it's them, you know, and know that, okay, I'm looking at myself right now. And they actually were capable of doing that, you know. They looked in the mirror and they're like, huh, am I a pretty magpie? Am I the prettiest magpie in the whole world? Yeah, so that's magpies, yeah. And I'm pretty sure ravens would be capable of the same thing. So that was about corvids and ravens and bird intelligence. Unexpectedly today, I had in my mind, I wanted to talk about something that I was a witness to on Saturday morning, because it was actually a beautiful morning, and I was thinking, should I capture a video today? But then I was like, nah, because I wouldn't have time to upload it, and it would be just, you know. And I told you there's going to be a break and a pause over the weekend, so I stick to it. But what happened is that and that's what I wanted to tell you today. By the way, there was a song coming from this corner over here, and we heard it once in our previous videos, but it wasn't particularly audible, and then I just moved on and said we're gonna hear it again. But I think he just stopped because probably the bird saw us stopping, so it got suspicious. But what happened, what I wanted to tell you, is that, and I don't know if I shouldn't cover it in the next video, but let me try. So the neighbor there on the plot of land that is right next to us, there's nothing, there's just grass. So he's building a fence, and he created these fence post holes, you know, which are quite deep, you know, I don't know, I'd say maybe a meter deep, and they're open, and they're very steep, you know. I mean, it's just a vertical hole leading to the ground, and there is in the ground, and there was like, I don't know, 10 of them or 15 or something, and I was walking by them, and I was like, this actually is a quote unquote perfect trap for amphibians and other species, you know. And I was actually walking by them for some time. I was like, I didn't really like it, you know. But at a certain point I checked it. It was on Saturday morning, and I looked down, and I was like, this is very deep, and you know, I thought it's like much sort of more is it mellow? No, it's like much less deep, you know, like yeah, whatever, you know what I mean, you know. So I checked it, and it was very deep actually, and I was like, this is a perfect trap for like amphibians and other animals, really. So I went and checked, and there was actually a frog in one of them, you know, which I took out, and I brought it to our garden, and we have a wildlife pond in there, so I put it close to it. But the point is, it was there, and it was on the bottom, and it was just waiting, and it would die, you know, because it would never get out. And hold on, let me get up here and talk about it a little more. It would not be able to get out, because in nature, and that's what I wanted to talk about, vertical sort of walls are an absolute and unnatural occurrence. Are highly unnatural occurrence, and whenever there is a vertical wall somewhere, which is of course most of the time created, or if not all the time created by humans, it becomes this death trap, and it becomes this a death trap, essentially, man-made death trap for so many species, you know. Birds get drowned in it, amphibians, you know, insects, like so many animals and species can die in in that created sort of, I mean, it can be a hole, it can, but usually there are holes, you know. And sure enough, yeah, there was a frog. It wasn't a toad, it was not sure what, but one of these sort of forest species of toads which jump really far. Yeah, Drake is keen to get back, I guess. I'm not sure, but I don't know why he's not coming. Sorry, yeah, he's coming. Okay, cool, good. So I took it out. I rescued it, and it's kind of interesting. I had that hunch that, because I was walking around it for a couple of days and I didn't check it, and then I was like, wait a second, this is a perfect quote-unquote trap for animals, so let's check it. And I'm sure I did. I'm so glad I did, because first of all, I wasn't sure how long those open holes would be there. But hold on, Drake, let me help you. Or okay, let's get back, probably, right? Let's get back throughout here. So I wasn't sure how long it's going to be there, but if it would be there for, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that frog would starve out and die, and it would not get out. And that actually happened, because I was walking by it this morning, and those fence poles were already filled in with concrete, you know, and I am pretty damn sure, you know, the neighbor wouldn't check those holes, you know, so before he would pour that concrete in there, so that frog would be a goner, you know. And but that's not what I wanted to talk about. The reason why I wanted to talk about it is just to say that it's because people often don't realize it, but these things are really dangerous. You know, anything that is very deep and has a steep vertical walls is very dangerous for a lot of animals, you know, and essentially a death trap for a lot of, as I said, amphibians and birds and so on. And holy damn, is that a piece of, oh, that's like a muffer. Wow, look at that. It's got even, that's been here a long time. It's got a moss growing out of it, but it's for these, it's like, what is it, ear mufflers, you know, so that it reduces the sound that is coming to your ear. It blocks away the noise. It's probably used by foresters when they cut down wood, but let me take that and throw it out. Throw it in the trash can. So I just wanted to say, please be aware that whenever you make anything of that sort, and I mean, I'm not saying you're not supposed to make holes for fence posts, but please make sure that you cover it, or either, you know, I'm not sure if you have to leave it. I guess what you need to do there is that you dug the hole and you leave it for some time to like breathe, and then you pour the concrete. I guess that's the usual way to go about it. But if you have to do that, then, like, you know, either, you know, go and check those holes the next day, or, you know, the day after, or, you know, put something on top, like a mesh, you know, which is going to make the hole breathe, but also something's not going to fall through. I know it's an extra work, but, you know, what I wanted to say is just, it's great to be careful with these things, because we don't realize it, but they can really be deadly and become a death trap for so many animals, you know. And I did saw, for instance, I remember this one time I saw a hole made by a metal detectorist in the forest, and that hole filled with rainwater because there were heavy rains. And in that hole, which had, again, very steep vertical walls, was a drowned great tit, you know. By the way, I think I don't think it was a ghost, but I think I saw a white deer, and I know I teased that animal on my channel, you know. Keep an eye out for the white deer, and that wasn't a joke. There is actually a white deer roaming these woods, but I haven't seen it for some time. I mean, a couple of months now. But I believe there was like a white flash in between the trees there. I believe that it was the white deer, because I was like, what is that? Is that a weird, because it was like sort of like flying almost, but then I realized, oh, it was running, and perhaps, or most likely, it was the white deer. Wow, I hope we're gonna see it at some point, because it's an incredible, beautiful animal, you know. It's completely, entirely snow white. It's usually accompanied by other deers, and it's absolutely magical, you know. And I've seen it multiple times in different situations when I wished I had either a photo, a camera, you know, or like take a photo or video or something. And now I have the ability, having this GoPro attached to my chest. So I hope we're gonna come across it, because it's absolutely beautiful animal. Very cool, bud. So I think that was the white deer. But anyway, yeah, and that hole filled up with rainwater, and in that hole was a drowned great tit, you know. And that only just reminded me like how dangerous these traps really are, and how like we don't realize that really, you know. It's like for us it's a hole, right, and it's nothing, but for so many smaller animals out there, it's really a death trap that they cannot get out of from, and that they can either starve in that trap, or they can just drown when there's rain. And the same goes for instance, and that's a common problem that is incredibly dangerous for a lot of birds and a lot of animals. Those giant barrels to collect rainwater, that is a huge death trap as well. Because once that animal falls into that barrel with that water, it cannot get out, because again, vertical walls, you know, very slippery, you know, there's no way to get out. And when it's full of water, you know, that animal, even if it can swim, it will exhaust itself and drown eventually, you know. So it's so important to cover all these, you know, containers and barrels and holes and anything that something can fall into, and especially if there's water, because that is a very, you know, that's like extra danger, you know. Once there is water, there's extra danger of that animal drowning, you know. Even if it's an amphibian, or if it's a species that are, you know, familiar and you know, doing well in water, it's gonna drown eventually, you know. It's gonna starve out. So it's super important to, what the hell is that? Jesus Christ. It sounded like was that a motorcycle? Weird. Anyway, so it's super important to cover these, you know, holes, cover these, you know, containers and barrels with water, you know, just always kind of have in the back of your head that, you know, something could fall into it and cannot get out, because once there are vertical walls, it's a death trap, you know. Unless you put some sort of, I don't know, some couple of branches that the animal can climb onto and climb out of that hole or something, you know. It's always important to either cover it or make sure those animals can get out, you know. And yeah, that can be also done with like branches that you put in, or some wood that you can put in that those animals can climb out of it, on that, like, I don't know, a piece of branch or piece of wood. So I just wanted to bring a little bit of an attention to this and say that it can be a really a great problem and very dangerous for a lot of animals out there. So that's what I wanted to say in today's video. Actually, I managed to cover it in, regardless of the fact that I was talking about something else. It's going to be a longer video today, I'm sure. But anyways, that's what I wanted to say for today. So I'm going to sign off now. And I'm gonna throw this into our container, into our trash bin. Anyways, signing off.